Hi there, I am a Season 10 Challenger player who plays a bit of Syndra. I'm going to be doing a continuation or extension of the last video that I uploaded that was kind of tips and tricks. This is going to be more about rune itemization and a little bit of the laning phase that you guys asked for last time, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. So there's two popular rune pages for Syndra. One is going to be Electrocute and the other is Phase Rush. They have different uses and different utility involved with them. So there's no rune page that you're always going to take. It's going to be dependent on what the team situation is, what the composition is like. So don't really concern yourself with what the best one is as of right now. I'm going to go and introduce to you Domination Tree, which is going to be where Electrocute is. Electrocute is a great execute and also has a lot of laning power involved with it, which makes it a little bit more useful than Phase Rush when it comes to trading. So when we're playing against a squishy team or we need to have an early game impact, we're probably going to be running the Domination page. And we're also going to be basically utilizing the new shop system. There's something called mythic items that were just released with Preseason. There are currently 5 AP items, I believe, for mythics, and they all have different bonus stats involved or different effects. Ludens, the new Luden's Tempest, gives you magic penetration when you complete the item, which means that it does really well with Electrocute because it is a damage keystone with a damage item. Now the really neat thing here is that when you build Luden's Tempest, it also gives you a move speed spike whenever you use a spell on a 10-second cooldown. So it does give us a little bit of utility from Phase Rush, and then we get the benefits of taking the Electrocute as well. So Electrocute for combinations. I typically take Taste of Blood. The reason why I take Taste of Blood is because I like having extra sustain in lane. If you're going to be trading often, getting a little bit of healing back from Taste of Blood is going to be a lot more valuable than Eyeball or Cheap Shot. So we're going to take Taste of Blood second. Finally, Eyeball Collection is honestly just best in slot. There's really no situation where you're going to be making the most use out of Ghost Pour or Zombie Ward, so this is just going to give us additional adaptive power. So more AP is always going to be really good, especially with the linear haste changes. And finally, this is going to be preference. This is something that I do personally, but I think that Ravenous Hunter is the best one out of all these. The reason why is because coming mid-game, it gives us a lot of extra sustain for these team fights, but also allows us to do a lot better in the actual laning phase. Now, they did change it. It is basically Omnivamp now, so you get healing from everything, not just abilities. So it does help out a lot as well. Now, the cool thing is, if you do not intend on taking advantage of Ravenous Hunter, you can opt for the Relentless Hunter, and this is kind of the keystone that you want to be taking if you're going to be roaming often or looking to impact side lanes. We already have priority with Electrocute, we already have priority when we're running Ludens. It isn't pivotal to have Relentless Hunter, but it does make a macro playstyle a lot more efficient. I'm going to go ahead and lock in Ravenous here, and then this is kind of up for toss right now. This is what I think is the best in secondary slots for Preseason, Season 11, and that's going to be Mana Flow Band and Transcendence. The reason why is because Mana Flow Band gives us a lot of an easier time laning, especially with the changes to D-Ring, and it just gives us a bigger mana pool to use, so we don't have to really concern ourselves with recalling as often, and it does incentivize us trading as well. Second, Transcendence, 10 ability haste, enough said. Probably the most valuable thing that we can really take. Scorch is awful, Gathering Storm just takes too long. There's really no point taking Absolute Focus because we'll always be dueling. So this is a Hyumen and the only other option. Now, once you hit level 11, it'll also give you reduced cooldowns when you get a takedown, which is a kill or assist. So that's going to give you a little bit more power in form of ease in mid-game fights. Now finally, I've seen a few people hesitate about Haste as your secondary keystone. Sorry, Shard. I honestly just think double adaptive is always going to be the best, just because we are lane bully, and then it's going to be defense shard based on what your matchup is. If you're playing against an AD, take armor. If you're against an AP, take magic resist. And the second rune page is going to go ahead and be the Phase Rush. This is the most consistent rune page that you can technically run. This is because it is a lot more safer than Electrocute, but also does not give you as many opportunities to snowball. Now, Phase Rush itself basically makes it very hard to gank you, but also gives you a lot of ability to catch people off guard by continuing a combo. So it is versatile both offensively and defensively. It's not just a utility tool. But we do need to remember that it does lower overall damage combo in the early game versus Electrocute. Second, basically Manifold Band's still going to be best in slot. Transcendent's always going to be best in slot as well because haste is so valuable to us. There really isn't much value in building ability haste at the start anymore, so we want to make sure that we're getting it from other sources. And finally, this is kind of a toss-up. If you do need better laning, then I would take Scorch. If you plan on playing a 30-minute game, then you probably want to be taking Gathering Storm. I'm going to go ahead and opt for Scorch because I usually play for lane phase, so that I have a strong foundation to enter the mid-game. Second, this is something that has also been contested. Before the reset, the best in slot was Biscuit Delivery and Cosmic Insight because it gave you the most sustain and lane power. They did change Cosmic Insight and no longer gives you actual haste now. It gives you item haste and spell haste on your summoner spell. So we're not getting cooldown reduction from it, but it does give you a little bit more utility when it comes to your summoner spells. So if that's something that you like, that's something that you can run. Alternatively, I do think that Time Warp Tonic is an acceptable choice because of the additional move speed. Otherwise, you could take Stopwatch into something like a Zed, maybe. Finally, for your shards, still going to be adaptive. Haste is a considerable option if it is going to be going a long enough game, and it's going to be shard based on AD or AP matchup. Now, a lot of people have been doing research, and I was also told about the possibility of running Presence of Mind and Tenacity. The main issue that I have with the Precision tree is that these bottom three are kind of trash. Tenacity is very situational, and Presence of Mind is no longer relevant after the D-Ring fix. D-Ring actually gives us the staying power that we need, so mana isn't really an issue any longer, so we don't really have to consider this unless it's a very desperate Tenacity angle. Alright, so let's go straight into items here. You'll notice immediately that I've kind of separated them into both keystones. The reason why I recommend going Ludens every time you run Electrocute is because you are basically all-inning. If you're going to be running a damage keystone, you want to be going the most optimal form of damage, which is going to be Ludens Tempest. The reason why this is because of the flat magic penetration on the item. Not only does it give you 10 flat pen, but it also gives you bonus pen on every legendary item completion. So basically when you finish your Ludens Tempest and your Sorcerer Boots, that's going to put you to 28. Which is 5 less than the original Sorc Boots and Oblivion Orb tech, which was 33. You'll notice that most mages start with 30, and with plus 8, that's going to put them at 38. So you're going to be doing a bit of like a 15 to 18% bonus damage just from your magic pin, and then once you finish a legendary item, that will put you up to the final 33. This is very important because the less magic pin or magic resist that people build, the more valuable your stat is going to be. Something that is important to remember, though, is that flat pen will never go past 0, so there is a point where there is diminishing returns. Now, to go over why we go Horizon Focus as our first item, it's because it's honestly just the best in terms of stats. The main thing with Preseason and Season 11 is that the AP items are kind of honestly just garbage. With the changes to linear haste, there is no longer the ability to build 45% CDR in Syndra and about 3.5k gold. It's now going to take you almost 7,000 gold just to get that 40% CDR. So what this means is that we need to either make a trade-off based on our damage by having low cooldowns and medium damage, or having medium cooldowns and high damage. So Horizon Focus gives us a 10% flat damage increase every time we activate our immobilization effect, which is our QE, where we land a Q or W at max range. We'll be basically proccing the Hyper Shot here. Now, there is a situational item for every game. If you're playing into an AD champion, you can always substitute the Zonias for the Hyper Focus, but this is what the ideal endgame build's going to look like for Electrocute. Now, in regards to Liandry's, they're almost exactly the same. The main difference is that you lose the move speed from Echo in exchange for a dot that burns. Now, the other caveat is that you're actually getting 10 more ability haste on the Liandry's versus the Ludens, but you lose out on the flat pen. Now, it's actually not the worst. Now, the reason why I say this is because if you read this, whilst burning, they lose 5% magic resist per second, max reduction of 25%. What this means is that you're shredding 25% of their magic resist, and what is 25% of 38 or 33? It's basically 9.5. So, if we take a look at this item, what does it do? 10 flat magic pen. We're basically getting 0.5 less magic penetration. The caveat again is, of course, that's a dot that has to burn first. You have to extend the trade to get the benefit of the penetration, whereas flat penetration will be applied from the beginning of your trade. So this isn't the worst situation for you if you're forced into building Liandry's. And this is the kind of item that you'll always be building into tanks that have 2 to 3 tank compositions. And this goes great with Phase Rush. Phase Rush gives you a lot of opportunities or utility to basically disengage from a tanky frontline, and allows you to burn them down and just kindly, just extend those trades as long as you want to. Sork Boots obviously still going to be best in slot. There are a few situations where you'll be building the Merc Treads, but the build is almost exactly the same because once again AP items are quite frankly garbage. We already have 20 haste from Liandry's, so we can go ahead and prioritize the Horizon Focus once again for 100 AP. This is important because it makes the tick on the Liandry's more valuable, but the legendary item also, the mythic passive, gives us 5 more haste from every legendary completion. So, versus the Ludens that gives us 5 magic pin, we're basically getting free CDR for building our AP items. Now, as our 3rd, 4th, 5th item, those are obviously going to be situational as well. Zhonya's is always going to be an acceptable substitute versus AD Assassins. Otherwise, you can go ahead and value the magic pin versus any heavy MR, especially if you're playing versus tanks, and Rab Cap for just straight raw AP efficiency. In order to get 40% CDR in the new game, I believe it is 67 ability haste. If we're getting 30 from our rune page and item, then we get our 10 from the Zhonya's Hourglass. You'd have to basically build a Cosmic Drive, or you'd have to build 2 more situational items just to hit that CDR cap, which is why the reason I wouldn't even recommend going for 40% CDR anymore. It's just not worth it. It is, quite frankly, just the worst possible thing that you can beeline on Syndra at this point. Yo, what up? So we're currently on the laning portion of this guide. I basically recruited one of my challenger friends, Doubtful, to play Annie versus me. We're going to go and just go straight into lane phase here. So the most notable thing is that we take Magic Resist because it is a AP matchup, and we're both running Electrocute and Ignite. I think Syndra has a 47% win rate versus Annie, and I think Syndra actually is a pretty good laning phase versus Annie. It's just that post 6, once she has ultimate available, it's a little bit hard to play around it. The key things to playing Syndra in lane is you kind of want to make sure that you're utilizing Mana Flow Band as often as possible, and making sure that we're getting Electrocute procs off. Now, we basically both traded 1 for 1 there. The main difference, though, is that I do have Mana Flow, so this is going to help me out once we do 1 reset. Because it increases my max mana pool, but also gives me a little bit of a refund on the back end. So with the changes to D-Ring, we also want to make sure that we're farming as consistently as possible. And a really easy way to make sure that you're landing Qs is to wait until the enemy goes in for last hit. So we're watching this minion right now. He goes for the Q instead, but we know that he now wants this next one. And we just go ahead and Q every time we see that he walks up for a last hit on a minion. Now he's straight up outplaying us right now because he's a better player. And it's kind of a big deal because she does have 100 extra attack range on us. So missing Qs like that's actually pretty bad for us. Now she walked through the ball, so we're actually going to go for the extended play here. Pop the health pot here. Trade 1 for 1. It's not the worst. We're going to grab another Amp Tome. So this is actually in our favor because we did get the first blood, so we're going to have a little bit extra gold. And for a lane like this, where we're both lane bullies, having additional stats is a very strong advantage. Now, the other cool thing is the lane's pushing into me, which means that I now have control. If he wants to walk up to last hit, he has to do so into my side of the map. If this was a normal game, it would mean that he would be ganked here. Unfortunately, we do miss the max range combination. He wants to push in here because he wants to make sure that it resets. This is a very dangerous position for him because if I do an extended trade, he has to run all the way back for the tower. Now the big thing is we're kind of wasting a lot of mana here and we're not landing anything, so we're not getting the mana flow band back. But this is like the perfect wave state for us because look at where he has to be if he wants to farm here. His movement's insane. Once again, we want to make sure that we're last hitting properly so that we can get the most advantage out of the drain effect on our D-Ring. Every time we kill a minion, that restores 6 mana. Okay, we're going to start doing some more wacky hijinks here. I'm going to queue the back line, and I'm going to use this ball as a zoning tool. get a nice Electrocute proc, and then go back. So walking back into range there is the worst thing we can do because it gives them the opportunity to trade back. When you're playing Syndra and you do an EQ combo, trade and then immediately back up. If you try to go for extra auto attacks, you're kind of giving them the opportunity to use all their skills back onto you. If you take advantage of the stun window, they should not be able to do anything back. So it's something that you need to keep an eye out for. Also, our Ignite's coming up soon, so that's something that we can play around. I'm doing my best to conserve mana here because I need about 210 mana to do a full combo. With Ignite coming up in 32 seconds, that's a lot better of an idea than anything else. Now, it is a free mana flow, so I will go for that one. Pop a health pot. And we're going to start pulling the wave here. If he doesn't recall here, this is basically a guaranteed kill for us. Alright, so he actually jebaited me there. He has no mana either, though, so this is kind of a weird situation for the both of us. So once again, the longer he stays, the worse this is for him. He needs to reset here. I'm going to go and assume that because he hasn't showed he has recalled, so I'm going to go and push this in as fast as I can. The reason why we push this in is so that he loses CS, and it gives us a really good recall timing. The reason why this is important is because every minion that he misses is equivalent to CS, well, it's equivalent to gold and experience that he's losing. So getting a nice shove in like that is very valuable to us. We'll go and pick up our Lost Chapter, Boots for move speed. Boots is extremely valuable in this matchup because it gives us the extra distance to avoid stuns, but also gives us the ability to engage. So when you're playing against heavy CC, you get hit by 1 CC, that means a jungle gank lands and you're dead. So move speed helps out a lot with that distance control. So wave's going to be rubber banding back into us because we cheater recalled it. And once again, we're back in a fantastic position, and we're going to start looking for Q setup balls here. So once again, use the ball. That should be 100-0, to be honest. I actually have the flash for Tibbers here. Holy shit. Am I going to die to Tibbers? Okay. Broken champ. Alright, so that's a 1-for-1. And that might seem okay, but it's actually awful because I blew flash, and my 20 CS lead means nothing if I'm trading 1-for-1. You have to remember that we're both mid-game teamfight champions. I do have a better laning phase pre-6, but now that we're both 6, this is what it comes down to. Flash ulting Annie is very, very difficult to avoid. The only thing that we can do here is essentially build a null mantle. So I do want to keep the wave position in the exact same spot that it has been. But I messed that up because I'm a bad player. We're going to start looking for a little bit more, we're going to start focusing more on trades. We've been playing incorrectly by going for 100% all-ins there. We do want to get some poke damage in. And we can afford to do that because we have Lost Chapter now. Go ahead and grab a plate here. Wow, that move speed's actually insane. Once again, so this is a really good poke for us. The reason why is because next kill, being at 60 to 70% HP sets us up for the kill window. If we were not looking for poke damage here, it would be impossible for us to 100 OM. Alright, so I recognize my ult's not going to kill him there, so I booked it. But you see how I'm not giving the opportunity to trade back? If I'd gone in for ult there, he probably would have, comboed me. We're going to wait for him to walk up for a last hit this time. Never mind, he walked up into it. And there we go. So we whittle him down with trading. We try to make sure that we minimize trade windows as much as we can by backing up after stuns. And then we're going to make sure that we push our wave in to deny CS. EQ power. Using your E properly is one of the biggest things that a Syndra player can learn. Putting a ball down and then properly utilizing your body as a zoning tool is just so much pressure. Alright, so we're in a pretty good spot right now. If we want to make sure that we don't lose lane, I'm just going to pick up the null mantle here, just so that it fucks him over. We're going to go in for probably the last kill on this one. Unfortunately, we probably won't be able to finish the Luden's Tempest, but you'll notice that he's gone straight AP. He's at 117 to my 144, which means I have a little bit more damage, but he is relatively equal with us. If he's able to get a nice stun ult off, we could still die. This lane isn't over. So he immediately recognized what I was doing with my body there. I'm not going to go for the ward because I know he's there, and I don't want to give him the ability to engage on me. We also make sure that we're staying outside of his E range, right? Because he's going to continuously cast that move speed and look for an opportunity to engage. Alright, I might die here. To the Tibbers. I hope not. Holy shit. And that's basically laning phase. So, we've established a lead. We didn't get the best use out of our lane, because we did give him 2 kills back. But this is a pretty decent start, and it's basic application of our QE combo, and looking to take advantage of those Qs on the minion wave. Thanks for watching.